Akana the Hag is a Strigoi vampire that dwells in Hunger Wood, but she was once a Lahmian maiden that fell in love with Ushoran, Lord of Strigos, and betrayed Neferata. Originally a thrall of the Lahmian bloodline, third generation from Neferata, Akana was a trusted lieutenant to the queen herself. When Neferata became jealous of Ushoran's achievements in Strigos, she ordered Akana to infiltrate her brother's court in Murkane and spy on him. But she had grown tired of Neferata's endless manipulations and half-truths. Ushoran's clear vision and disdain for subterfuge inspired her, and she fell in love with the Lord of Masks. She confessed her true mission to him and pledged her eternal loyalty to him as well. In turn, Ushoran was smitten with the beautiful Lahmian and took her as his concubine. When Neferata learned of her betrayal, she became enraged and put into motion the events that would result in the fall of Strigos. The kingdom's final days were swift and bloody. While Ushoran was confident that he could defeat the massive warg gathering at his front gates, he ordered Akana to flee the capital with as much of his treasured lore as she could carry. Ushoran was unwavering in his belief that the collected wisdom of the Strigoi culture must endure at all costs. He reminded Akana of her eternal pledge to him and gave her his blood kiss. She packed whichever scrolls and tablets she had quick access to and fled north with Neferata's agents dogging her at every turn. As with the other Strigoi, she was marked by Neferata's enmity, and no vampire kin would shelter her. She knew well that her old mistress would never give up the chase, and vowed to disappear entirely. Given Neferata's limitless resources and hatred, it is a testimony to Akana's cunning that Ushoran's concubine was never seen again. It was almost a millennium later that stories first began to surface from a place called Hunger Wood. Stories of a water nymph luring woodsmen to their doom. Stories of an old crone who bathed in the blood of the innocent. Stories of a ghoul queen who ruled from an ancient city of ghosts. Akana the Hag is all and none of these. She is an enigmatic figure of rumor and folklore that keeps even the best-informed vampires guessing. Only the wisest mystics or Petru of the Strigani clans know the truth. Over time, the Hag has also become a primary source of knowledge and lore for the Strigoi vampires. When Forag the Slaughterer led his army to reclaim Old Strigos, he did so using ancient cartography and lore provided by the Hag. Before he disappeared, he sent tablets and other recovered lore back to Hunger Wood for her to translate and archive. Unfortunately, the Hag suspected that the keystone she required to translate Vorag's tablets was buried in the ghoul-haunted ruins to the north. The ghouls were death cultists of Nagash, and the Hag had already provoked their ire on previous expeditions. In preparation for the upcoming escalations with the death cult ghouls, Akana turned to her Strigani allies. A loyal inner circle of Strigani Petru already acted as her eyes and ears beyond the forest, and now they would find her some ghouls of her own. With the Petru's aid, the Hag formed a small but effective network of ghouls, many of whom were former Strigani until the dangerous advancement of their condition forced their separation from the clans. The Hag and her forces have been in open war with the death cult ghouls ever since. The Sisters in Blood. Akana first met the vampire baroness of Hellfort 75 years ago, when Lydia von Karstein ventured into Hungerwood seeking arcane lore. The Hag could not help but be impressed by Lydia's daring, for never in her recollection had another woman braved the infamous woods alone. Upon learning that she was a noble of Sylvania, the Hag recognized an opportunity for alliance. In exchange for permitting the Strigani people safe passage through her lands, Akana would teach Lydia about the mysteries of true Dar. Of course, the curious scholar agreed readily, beginning a close relationship between the vampires. Over the next few years, Lydia returned often to Hag's Hollow, where she was free from the scrutiny of her tedious husband. One harvest moon, Lydia arrived at the Hollow unexpectedly to discover Akana bathing in a cistern of fresh blood. The Hag turned away as her hideous countenance was unmasked. But Lydia did not recoil. Your fearlessness is what first impressed me, and continues to impress me still. Akana whispered, inviting the young vampire to disrobe and partake in her grisly bath. Lydia had been an apt pupil, and this final blood rite would complete her education. Lydia accepted the Hag's invitation, and under the white moon, they became blood sisters. She now had the combined blood of Vlad von Karstein, Ushoran, and Neferata coursing through her veins. When Lydia returned to Hellfort, Voislav sensed that something about his wife had changed and forbade her from leaving their castle henceforth. For many long years, she acquiesced, maintaining contact with her forbidden mentor through secret letters delivered by the Rumanik Strigani. But the realities of her gilded cage gradually fanned the flames of her hatred for Voislav, until she could bear it no longer and orchestrated her husband's murder. Soon after his death, she restored contact with Akana, and the pair eagerly renewed their joint investigation into the vampire prophecies. But unbeknownst to either of them, some of Lydia's most recent breakthroughs were actually clever misdirections planted by agents of Neferata, Queen of the Lahmians. Neferata had known for centuries that Akana had escaped to Hungerwood, but was unable to reach her until a minor von Karstein noble provided a sudden opportunity. Upon learning of the Hag's relationship with Lydia, the Night Queen set in motion a complex plan to destroy them both. And now, onto the Hag's Hollow. There is no direct route to Hag's Hollow. It is here that Akana the Hag has retreated from the scrutiny of the world for over 2,000 years. Very few know of her existence, and fewer still know her true identity. She has recently left Hunger Wood for the first time in centuries to deliver urgent information about Nagash's plans to her Strigoi brethren. Without an invitation, the only sure way to reach the Hollow is to become lost. Accordingly, those who actively seek the Hag's domain may willingly lose their way. Her few invited guests are almost exclusively high-ranking Strigoi vampires or Strigani Petru. Any travelers losing their way from a trail near Hag's Hollow will arrive at the Hag's abode. She ensures this by deploying a small army of treekin throughout the forest, disguised as normal trees, who can open and close a path to her abode at will. Once lost travelers are channeled to Hag's Hollow, the treekin close the path behind. Eventually, the travelers reach a wide clearing surrounded by deadly Blood's Edge that will prevent them from leaving. Although there are 4 safe gaps in the ring of deadly plants, so the treekin can direct welcome guests to the clearing without getting munched. The Hag's abode is a squat, rectangular structure that peeks through the tall grass at the foot of a massive oak tree at the center of the picturesque clearing. The low-profile structure is naturally camouflaged by moss, lichen, and the shade of a colossal tree. The building is an old chapel, possibly dating back as far as the Assaborn tribes. The isolated location of the chapel suggests a forbidden cult, and the sacrificial slab 5 paces from the chapel is further evidence to that effect. Blood sluices drilled into the basalt slab empty into an ornate marble bath, which was added later by Akana. From the tall tree's upper limbs hangs a man-sized birdcage. Inside the cage is Jizix, a blind necrog vampire who once apprenticed to Lord de Troyes near Wolfenburg. The Hag captured Jizix long ago and has allowed him to live on the condition that he serves as her astrologer. Although he can no longer see the living world, he can still perceive the heavens and the spirit world, including the travelers' souls. Each night, his cage is elevated above the forest canopy by Duram, a corrupted tree man in service to the Hag. If Jizix does not complete his assigned tasks for the night, Duram is instructed to expose the vulnerable necrog to the rising sun. At the bottom of a narrow staircase, a single stone portal leads into the squat building. A magic lock spell has been cast on the door. If the door is forced, hidden compartments in the door jam simultaneously release a dusting of necrotic powder, silver shavings, and powdered garlic on the people nearest to the door. In startling contrast to the rough-hewn outer walls, the interior of the Hag's abode is elegantly appointed in the classical Arabian style. The stone walls are concealed behind a sequence of hand-woven tapestries depicting the phases of Morsleep and Munsleep. Low mosaic tables spill over with scrolls and maps amid a sea of gold brocade pillars. Ancient stone tablets of all shapes and sizes lean against overfilled bookcases and chests containing more stone tablets. An ornate brass lantern with precisely cut screens projects a fantastic play of amber-hued starlight in the room, which is consistent with known astrology cycles. An oblong box inlaid with mother-of-pearl and lapis mosaics hides behind a lacquered room divider. The ornate box is where the hag rests when in residence. Spread across the hag's desk are the following items. A scroll from the Great Library of Strigos, written in the Strigoi dialect of High Nehekaren. The scroll contains misinformation from Nagash, originally planted in the mind of Kadon and later passed along to the Strigoi. Next, one of G6's star charts, the poem of the Stirrigan ghosts. Contained within the hag's locked chests are the following items. A letter from Lydia von Carstein, 32 additional lantern screens, stone tablets from the Temple of Blood in Lahmia, inscribed in High Nehekaren. Several of these were given to Lydia for the Union of Souls ritual. Stone tablets from the ruins of Murkane, inscribed in High Nehekaren. They were recovered by a Strigoi lord named Vorag the Slaughterer. Stone tablets from the Elven ruins, dating from the War of the Beard. These are inscribed in Arcane Elf. Loose pages from a Book of Nagash. These were also found at the Elven ruins and are written in High Nehekaren. Styrigian tablets, inscribed in arcane runes. They are cracked and incomplete, but can be pieced together with Lydia's collection from Mistgarten. Bundles of Necrarch star charts. The charts are incomprehensible at first glance, but after studying the star charts for a day, it becomes apparent that they were drawn for a specific purpose. However, another week of study would be required to discern this purpose. It's important to note that the hag's necromantic research has attracted some of the Dar magic permeating Hunger Wood, and her hovel is saturated with the withering dark energy. While exposure to Dar has no effect on the hag, travelers who linger in her abode will feel a withering sensation on their flesh. This only happens to those who enter the building, although the concentrated Dar in the area is strong enough to contaminate all food rations and liquids. When intruders wish to leave Hag's Hollow, they will find this difficult. The hag has gone to great lengths to see that those who visit her hollow unannounced can never leave. The first part of the hag's containment plan is the arrangement of Blood's Edge around the perimeter of her clearing. The diabolical part of the scheme is that trespassers avoiding the Blood's Edge must traverse several patches of grave grass to do so. Grave grass is much rarer and harder to identify. The second part of the hag's containment plan is Hunger Wood itself. Her army of tree kin will attempt to misdirect the fugitives at every turn, although they remain in tree form and will not engage them. It is likely that their tainted supplies will quickly become an issue as well, as the twisted environs of Hunger Wood offer very little in the way of sustenance. There is no wild game to be found, and very little in the way of edible flora.